As musicians ourselves, I think we know what else is involved in fiddle playing other than just learning tunes. At a fiddle workshop somewhere, you might just go in and learn a tune or two. But actually, I think the Fiddle Weekend is about all of the other stuff that isn't that. And I think being fiddle players ourselves, we're very aware of what that is.
For me, it's to do with environment. So the Soundpost environment, I've got a feeling for what that is now. My hour and a half isn't isolated. And that means I can actually be more specific. Over the 2.5 days, there's going to be so much other stuff. Yeah. So people are getting like a whole rainbow of stuff, and I don't have to be every single colour in that. I can just do the thing that I've decided. And some people will find that really stimulating, and other people will go to the next workshop and find that their thing.
They're just given lots of different perspectives and lots of how different individual musicians function and work, and then they can find and relate to that.
And they're in control as well, because they've done a preference of who they want to spend time with, and more or less what subject matter they want to look at. So they're proactive in that. So we're not giving them, it's not like you get this. They've chosen, and so it's this really nice transactional thing. And this is rare. I think it's rare.
You know, I would completely say I was an English fiddle player, but at the same time I don't know anything about Southern English style and would feel horribly uncomfortable talking to a
But I bet you could feel it.
Perhaps so, yeah.
You know, because you've got those influences in your playing, haven't you?
I guess so.
This is the thing about knowledge. How do you get that knowledge that you've got? You embody English fiddle style. How do you verbalise it? How do you turn that into
this is the thing,
something you can transmit?
I think what's really unique about it is the way that research people are saying to us, you are not being researched in this, you're part of the research. And that, to me, seems quite radical, that acknowledgement of the non-academic part of things still being really valuable.
The idea of the weekend is in a sense echoed in the networking days that we've had with the academics. People are going to come along and they know us for our commercial output, and yet we're going to sort of bring it down to the nitty-gritty of what we do. And we go to these networking days, and Kate Parle is like, oh, I've got your album. And she's also great because she doesn't expect us to use academic language. And she's very humble in the sense that she knows that she's quite confusing. She knows so much, she's an academic, and yet she doesn't know very much. She knows the surface level of what we do, and it's exactly the same the other way around. With the other people involved, with the researchers and stuff, I feel bad that I'm perhaps not engaging in a more appropriate way. Do you know what I mean?
I do know exactly what you mean. This is a message Kate keeps coming back with. The one consistent thing she keeps talking about is we need to reflect and document what's happening and what we're thinking about what's happening every few weeks to do this, either writing or reflecting or videoing.
In the past, Baby Songs was about collecting songs from people around Sheffield who'd arrived from other parts of the world. It was also about sharing those songs in a variety of different ways, including having a singing group to perform them. And now, as part of the Transmitting Music Heritage project, the funding thing, like having money and then creating this sense of pressure, mainly a good sense of pressure. Seems quite serious, going from beforehand just meeting up in someone's living room and just singing a few songs, and then suddenly it turned into this thing where we were signing a research contract and talking about research ethics and co-production and interesting academic theories and stuff like that. So yeah, it kind of changed the context of the whole thing. It enabled me to think of the Babel Songs project in the context of song collection over, through history, like I was talking about with the interesting parallel between Soundpost and Babel Songs. It's given us an opportunity to be more precise, and it's the nature of the project, I suppose. It's made it seem more logical to be more precise. Having a year-long slot to do it in, and then having to set some really clear outcomes to achieve in that amount of time. We've talked about whether we would actually sell the CD and try and recoup the money, because then that can, at least to some extent, make this funding from the Transmitting Music Heritage project be sort of self-regenerative. So, we can spend some of it on making a CD and then hopefully make some of it back, and to enable Babel Songs to, then do more stuff after the funding from this project's ended. Well, I think transmitting musical heritage means, in the context of the Babel Songs project, trying to mingle a lot of the different groups and cultures that are around, kind of make diversity be a really sort of living thing.
We've got a global mix of musicians for any one performance or any one recording session or for any one development session. There's a mix of musical styles, there's a mix of musical approaches to technique. The other side that interests me is to do with the linguistic content, the idea of multiple languages being present in the room, in the studio.
It is almost as if they're speaking to each other, the vocalists, not only with the music, but they're answering and they're responding each other with their own language.
Yeah, there's that element of just saying, you've got responsibility, you're the singer, it's your reality, you're the one who actually has the braveness to be there to speak out with your voice. You know, I can't do that. The 1948 Declaration of Human Rights, I was alerted to the significance of this by being tipped off about a woman called Monica Ross. Basically, she memorised the whole of the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights, which is 30 articles. So the statement is a preamble, and then there are 30 articles which go pages and pages and pages. Fantastically contemporary trigger for the kind of people that we've ended up inviting in to be involved in this project.
It's about also accepting, different levels of understanding of that text as well, and not all about, we're just projecting as if we've got one vision. I mean, would I be right in saying in the kind of world music domain that sometimes it's viewed a little bit simplistically that, we've got this thing that we believe in and we're all behind that thing, whereas, there are multiple levels to that. And
I'm documenting the project on photographic basis. Yeah. It's my journey with my camera now, just the understanding of the group psychology. There's
a massive psychological area to be talked about, and I think there's a massive social thing in place. It's a response to a situation which has been set up over time. I think it's been set up musically by the participants who've kind of aggregated here, and it's also a response to my other kind of non-music activities with Arts on the Run. So in a strategic sense, that's where it sits, and then the link up with the university and being invited to become a co-producer on the Transmitting Musical Heritage project, I thought was just a fantastic opportunity to sit it somewhere and also to resource it as well, and also to have a way of kind of looking at process a little bit more critically, because I just see this as being an ongoing way of doing stuff, and it's going to go on, and it needs sustaining, and one thing leads to another. And in terms of my kind of view about all this, I'm not into unity. It's not kind of I'm not driven by that at all. If anything, I think I'm driven by sort of the opposite, which is this mixture. I don't think what motivates me and what drives me is not a desire to research in that sort of way. But I am really, really curious about whether or not we can reach a sort of musical agreement, kind of organically, in those really intense sessions, which we do. We've managed it every time we've done it, which I think is just incredible.
To be born free, equal in dignity and rights. To be born free.
I visualize it. It's like little tubes are coming from each musician, and just creates this massive cube or sphere in the middle, and people are just feeling it.
Wow, it's really moving. It's incredibly moving, and all the things that you said, on reflecting back and listening back, it describes a narrative, it describes a process. It's a documentary. It's around social community music making, if you want. It involves non-music makers, people like Aisha coming in and documenting people like our filmmaker here. For me, feeling a lot more integral to the process.
The theme of diversity of modern society. Yeah, to see a group that's maybe more established, been doing that for a longer amount of time, get inspiration from that.
Everyone has community.
We could donate copies of the CDs to groups who've contributed to it. That would allow them to get some money from it, for their groups to continue as well.
We're going to have all the fiddle geeks in the country coming to one room, and we can get really in depth about it, the whole thing. The weekend will cover everything, from what strings you're using, your soundpost position, to all these different genres.
There's things you don't know are going to happen because what you timetable is a boundary, you know, it's just a framework, and actually the connections that will be made, we're not in control of, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you set things and you give the space for the possibility of stuff. You're not actually in control, but then that might have a legacy like later on.
Those little flutters of excitement, thinking I'm going to teach people about the rhythmic ambiguity of the 3/2 hornpipe, or do you know what I mean? Or,
Just as soon as I book this venue.
yeah, exactly. That's why. That's so exciting.